Part 2. Outbreeding devices. Majority of flowering plants produce hermaphrodite flowers, and pollen grains are likely to come in contact with the stigma of the same flower. Continued self-pollination result in inbreeding depression. Flowering plants have developed many devices to discourage self-pollination and to encourage cross-pollination. In some species, pollen release and stigma receptivity are not synchronized. Either the pollen is released before the stigma becomes receptive, or the stigma becomes receptive much before the release of pollen. In some other species, the anther and the stigma are placed at different positions so that the pollen cannot come in contact with the stigma of the same flower. Both these devices prevent autogamy. The third device to prevent inbreeding is self-incompatibility. This is a genetic mechanism and prevent self-pollen from the same flower or the flowers of the same plant from fertilizing the ovules by inhibiting pollen germination or pollen tube growth in the pistil. Another device to prevent self-pollination is the production of unisexual flowers. If both male and female flowers are present on the same plant, such as castor and maize, which are known as monoecious, it prevents autogamy but not geitonogamy. In several species such as papaya, male and female flowers are present on different plants. That is, each plant is either male or female, which is known as dioecious condition. Dioecious condition prevents both autogamy and geitonogamy. Pollen pistil interaction. Pollination does not guarantee the transfer of right type of pollen, compatible pollen of the same species as the stigma. Often, pollen of the wrong type, either from other species or from the same plant, if it is self-incompatible, also land on the stigma. The pistil has the ability to recognize the pollen, whether it is of the right type, compatible, or the wrong type, incompatible. If it is of the right type, the pistil accepts the pollen and promotes post-pollination events that leads to fertilization. If the pollen is of the wrong type, the pistil rejects the pollen by preventing pollen germination on the stigma or the pollen tube growth in the style. The ability of the pistil to recognize the pollen followed by its acceptance or rejection is the result of a continuous dialogue between pollen grain and the pistil. This dialogue is mediated by chemical components of the pollen interacting with those of the pistil. It is only seen in recent years that botanists have been able to identify some of the pollen and pistil components and the interactions leading to the recognition followed by acceptance or rejection. As mentioned earlier, following the compatible pollination, the pollen grain germinates on the stigma to produce a pollen tube through one of the germ pores. The contents of the pollen grains move into the pollen tube. Pollen tube grows through the tissues of the stigma and style and reaches the ovary. You would recall that in some plants, pollen grains are shed at two-celled condition, a vegetative cell and a generative cell. In such plants, the generative cell divides and forms the two male gametes during the growth of pollen tube in the stigma. In plants which shed pollen in the three-celled condition, pollen tubes carry the two male gametes from the beginning. Pollen tube, after reaching the ovary, enters the ovule through the micropyle and then enters one of the synergids through the filiform apparatus. Many recent studies have shown that filiform apparatus present at the micropylar part of the synergids guides the entry of pollen tube. All these events from pollen deposition on the stigma until pollen tubes enter the ovule are together referred to as pollen-pistil interaction. As pointed out earlier, pollen-pistil interaction is a dynamic process involving pollen recognition followed by promotion or inhibition of the pollen. The knowledge gained in this area would help the plant breeder in manipulating pollen pistil interaction even in incompatible pollination to get desired hybrids. You can easily study pollen germination by dusting some pollen from the flowers such as pea, chickpea, crotalaria, balsam and vinca on a glass slide containing a drop of sugar solution about 10%. After about 15 to 30 minutes, observe the slide under the low power lens of microscope. You are likely to see pollen tubes coming out of the pollen grains. As we shall learn in the chapter on the plant breeding, a breeder is interested in crossing different species and often genera to combine desirable characters to produce commercially superior varieties. After artificial hybridization, major approaches of crop improvement program are being processed. In such crossing experiment, it is important to make sure that only the desired pollen grains are used for pollination and the stigma is protected from contamination, that is, from unwanted pollen. This is achieved by emasculation and bagging techniques. If the female parent bears bisexual flowers, removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther dehisces using a pair of forceps is necessary. This step is referred to as emasculation. Emasculated flowers have to be covered with a bag of suitable size, generally made up of butter paper, to prevent contamination of its stigma with unwanted pollen. This process is called bagging. When the stigma of bagged flower attains receptivity, mature pollen grains collected from anthers of the male parents are dusted on the stigma, and the flowers are rebagged and the fruits allowed to develop. If the female parent produces unisexual flowers, there is no need for emasculation. The female flower buds are bagged before the flowers open. When the stigma becomes receptive, pollination is carried out using the desired pollen and the flower rebagged. Double fertilization. After entering one of the synergids, the pollen tube releases two male gametes into the cytoplasm of the synergid. One of the male gametes moves toward the egg cell and fuses with its nucleus, thus completing the syngamy. This results in the formation of a diploid cell, the zygote. The other male gamete moves towards the two polar nuclei located in the central cell and fuses with them to produce a triploid primary endosperm nucleus, pen. As this involved the fusion of three haploid nuclei, it is termed as triple fusion. Since two types of fusion, that is syngamy and triple fusion, takes place in an embryo sac, the phenomenon is termed double fertilization, an event unique to flowering plants, that is angiosperms. The central cell after triple fusion becomes the primary endosperm cell, PEC, and develops into the endosperm, while the zygote develops into an embryo. The sequence is: first zygote is formed, then globular embryo is formed, then heart-shaped embryo is formed, and then mature embryo is formed. Post-fertilization structures and events. Following double fertilization, events of endosperm and embryo development, maturation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruit are collectively termed as post-fertilization events. Endosperm. Endosperm development precedes embryo development. That means endosperm is formed before embryo is formed. Why? The primary endosperm cell divides repeatedly and forms a triploid endosperm tissue. The cells of the tissue are filled with the reserve food materials and are used for the nutrition of the developing embryo. In the most common type of endosperm development, the PEN undergoes successive nuclear divisions to give rise to free nuclei. This stage of endosperm development is called free nuclear endosperm. Subsequently, cell wall formation occurs and the endosperm becomes cellular. The number of free nuclei formed before cellularization varies greatly. The coconut water from the tender coconut that you are familiar with is nothing but free nuclear endosperm made up of thousands of nuclei, and the surrounding white kernel is the cellular endosperm. Endosperm may either be completely consumed by the developing embryo, example pea, groundnut, beans, before seed maturation, or it may persist in the mature seed, example castor and coconut, and be used up during seed germination. Embryo. Embryo develops at the micropylar end of the embryo sac where the zygote is situated. Most zygotes divide only after certain amount of endosperm is formed. This is an adaptation to provide assured nutrition to the developing embryo. Though the seeds differ greatly, the early stages of embryo development, that is embryogeny, are similar in both monocots and dicots. The zygote gives rise to the proembryo and subsequently to the globular, heart-shaped and mature embryo. A typical dicot embryo consists of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The portion of the embryonal axis above the level of cotyledon is epicotyle, which terminates with the plumule or stem tip. The cylindrical portion below the level of cotyledons is hypocotyle, that terminates at its lower end in the radicle or root tip. The root tip is covered with a root cap. Embryos of monocots possess only one cotyledon. In the grass family, the cotyledon is called scutellum, that is situated towards one side, lateral of the embryonal axis. At its lower end, the embryonal axis has radicle and root cap enclosed in an undifferentiated sheath called coleorhiza. The portion of the embryonal axis above the level of attachment of scutellum is the epicotyle. Epicotyle has a shoot apex and a few leaf primordia enclosed in a hollow foliar structure, the coleoptile. Seed. In angiosperm, the seed is the final product of sexual reproduction. It is often described as a fertilized ovule. Seeds are formed inside the fruits. A seed typically consists of seed coat, cotyledon, and an embryo axis. The cotyledons of the embryo are simple structures, generally thick and swollen due to storage of food reserves as in legumes. Mature seeds may be non-albuminous or ex-albuminous. Non-albuminous seeds have no residual endosperm and it is completely consumed during embryo development. Example pea, groundnut. Albuminous seeds retain a part of endosperm as it is not completely used up during embryo development. Example wheat, maize, barley, castor. Occasionally, in some seeds such as black pepper and beet, remnants of nucellus are also persistent. This residual persistent nucellus is known as perisperm. Integuments of ovules harden as tough protective seed coats. The micropyle remains as a small pore in the seed coat. This facilitates entry of oxygen and water into the seed during germination. As the seed matures, its water content is reduced and seeds become relatively dry, 10 to 15% moisture by mass. This general metabolic activity of the embryo slow down. The embryo may enter a state of inactivity called dormancy, or if favorable conditions are available, that is adequate moisture, oxygen and suitable temperature, embryos germinate. As ovules mature into seeds, the ovary develops into fruit, that is, the transformation of ovules into seeds and ovary into fruit proceeds simultaneously. The wall of the ovary develops into the wall of fruit called pericarp. The fruits may be fleshy as in guava, orange, mango, or may be dry as in groundnut and mustard. Many fruits have evolved mechanism for dispersal of seeds. Recall the classification of fruit and their dispersal mechanisms that we have studied in an earlier class. Is there any relationship between number of ovules in an ovary and the number of seeds present in a fruit? In most plants, by the time the fruit develops from the ovary, other floral parts degenerate and fall off. However, in a few species such as apple, strawberry, cashew, etc., the thalamus also contributes to the formation. Such fruits are called false fruit. Most fruits, however, develop only from the ovary and are called true fruits. Also, in most of the species, fruits are the result of fertilization. There are a few species in which fruits develop without fertilization. Such fruits are called parthenocarpic fruits. Banana is one such example. Parthenocarpy can be induced through application of growth hormones, and such fruits are seedless. Remember, parthenocarpy is different from parthenogenesis. Parthenocarpy is specific only for fruits. Seeds offer several advantages to angiosperms. Firstly, since reproductive processes such as pollination and fertilization are independent of water, seed formation is more dependable. Also, seeds have better adaptive strategies for dispersal to new habitats and help the species to colonize in other areas. As they have sufficient food reserves, young seedlings are nourished until they are capable of photosynthesis on their own. The hard seed coat provides protection to the young embryo. Being products of sexual reproduction, they generate new genetic combination leading to variation. Seed is the basis of our agriculture. Dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for storage of seeds which can be used as food throughout the year and also to raise crop in the next season. Can you imagine agriculture in the absence of seeds or in the presence of seeds which germinate straight away soon after formation and cannot be stored? How long do the seeds remain alive after they are dispersed? This period again varies greatly. In a few species, the seed lose viability within a few months. Seeds of a large number of species live for several years. Some seeds can remain alive for hundreds of years. There are several records of very old yet viable seeds. The oldest seed is that of lupin, Lupinus arcticus, excavated from Arctic tundra. The seed germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. A recent record of 2,000-year-old viable seed is of the date palm Phoenix dactylifera, discovered during the archaeological excavation of King Herod's palace near the Dead Sea. Can you think of some plants in which fruits contain very large number of seeds? Orchid fruits are one such category, and each fruit contains thousands of tiny seeds. Similar is the case of fruits of some parasitic species such as Orobank and Striga. Apomixis and polyembryony. Although seeds in general are the products of fertilization, a few flowering plants such as some species of Asteraceae and grasses have evolved special mechanism to produce seeds without fertilization, called apomixis. What is fruit production without fertilization is called? It is called parthenocarpy. Thus, apomixis is form of asexual reproduction that mimics sexual reproduction. There are several ways of development of apomictic seeds. In some species, the diploid egg cell is formed without reduction division and develops into the embryo without fertilization. More often, as in many citrus and mango varieties, some of the nucellar cells surrounding the embryo starts dividing and protrude into the embryo sac and develop into the embryos. In such species, each ovule contains many embryos. Occurrence of more than one embryo in a seed is referred to as polyembryony. Hybrid varieties of several of our food and vegetable crops are being extensively cultivated. Cultivation of hybrids has tremendously increased productivity. One of the problems of hybrids is that hybrid seeds have to be produced every year. If the seeds collected from hybrids are sown, the plants in the progeny will segregate and do not maintain hybrid characters. Production of hybrid seeds is costly, and hence the cost of hybrid seeds becomes too expensive for the farmers. If these hybrids are made into apomicts, there is no segregation of characters in the hybrid progeny. Then the farmers can keep on using the hybrid seeds to raise new crop year after year, and he does not have to buy hybrid seeds every year. Because of the importance of apomixis in hybrid seed industry, active research is going on in many laboratories around the world to understand the genetics of apomixis and to transfer the apomictic genes into hybrid varieties. Thank you very much.